Alright, you know what time it is. Time to skip an intro that sets the tone because I have a good amount to say. So with that, let's just jump right on in. Developed by Digital Sun, who brought you the first Moonlighter, as well as Cataclysmo, and published by 11-Bit Studio, which is rapidly becoming one of my favorite studios thanks to games like Indica, Frostpunk, and The Alters, comes the upcoming Moonlighter 2 Electric Boogaloo. Oh, wait, I meant Moonlighter 2 The Endless Vault. Massive spoilers for anyone who didn't finish the first game, but the end sees you going through some sort of interdimensional trade treaty with access to multiple realms, who will also have access to you and the town of Rhinoka. With this newfound access, an evil entity, Moloch, the interdimensional collector, took the dungeons and Rhinoka for himself, casting you and the townsfolk out of their homes. Moonlighter 2 begins with you and your people as refugees in a new settlement. Looking to use a familiar method of dungeon diving to bring back resources to sell in your shop, you set out to try to establish your new life. However, a mysterious force calls out to you, and with the promise of giving you what your heart most desires, you must bring in the wealth, grow your shop, and engage with the community to unravel the mystery of the Endless Vault. I feel like in order to talk about the demo of Moonlighter 2, I first need to talk about my thoughts on the first game. Released back in the before times, in the year of 2018, Moonlighter was released to critical acclaim, although it did feel like many people missed on its release, which is kind of easy to say when you realize that was the same year that games like Red Dead Redemption 2, God of War 4, Marvel's Spider-Man, Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, and many other AAA titles released. Even the indie field was stacked with releases from that year like Celeste, Dead Cells, Into the Breach, and Return of the Obra Dinn, which caused Moonlighter to go under the radar for many. I don't remember when I first played the game, but I do know that when I did, I understood that it was a hidden gem. There were aspects of the game that I wish were slightly different, but the potential was huge, and at that point I really hadn't played a game with the feedback loop of going dungeon diving in order to return with items to sell in your shop, which allows you to buy upgrades to last longer in dungeons. It gave the sense of a roguelike, but there was a story to tell which led to a bit of a bizarre ending to the game, but in the end the whole experience felt unique and fresh. Moonlighter became a game that I was really wanting to make a video on at some point in order to explain where I think it fell short, but still trying to promote the game as a whole because the ingenuity and passion that the developers had for the game was easily felt by the player, and it presents an experience that has helped put both the developers and the publishers on the map. Digital Sun has since released Cataclysmo, and my review of the demo was pretty critical of the experience, but with a 90% rating on Steam, it could very well just been a game that I didn't quite get. Because of this, and my previous experience with Moonlighter, I came into the demo of Moonlighter 2 with some optimism and an open mind. What the end result was, though, felt like I was witnessing a copy of a copy being laid out before me, with each copy losing what made the original so unique and fun. Moonlighter 2 feels like it kept the core gameplay of the original, simplified some of the systems, put it in a new art style, and added a dash of the go-to game to copy, Hades. Now, I'll get to the Hades comment in a bit, but I want to go over the other aspects first. The art of Moonlighter 2 has been a bit divisive amongst those who enjoyed the first game, with some even going so far as to make it a main focal point as to why they didn't enjoy the demo. Now, I'll say that regardless of what art style they're going to choose, the first game was so special for many that any change in art would upset people. I personally don't mind the art style, but what I do have an issue with is the new camera angle and how the environmental aspects are laid out. The first Moonlighter game took a direct top-down approach which makes obstacles in the levels easier to navigate around, however at the new angle it felt like there was many times where I couldn't quite get my head wrapped around where exactly I needed to be in order to not repeatedly fall off the same small ledge, or how to best navigate around without getting stuck between two obstacles.
Out of my way, son! Door stuck! Door stuck!
Now, in the original Moonlighter, one of my biggest gripes was not knowing the value of the items to begin with, so you basically had to go through a trial and error process to find the range in which your customers would purchase the items, alongside being able to identify what items are worth bringing back or leaving behind during your escapades into the dungeons. Moonlighter 2 sort of fixes this by assigning value to items and creating a puzzle-style inventory system in your backpack where you can rearrange items and even burn some to grant bonus value to others that you will hopefully be able to leave with. Upon getting back to your shop, you are met with a simplistic style of selling that allows you to attempt to persuade the customers into spending more money through a flat rate or a percentage-based increase. You can get modifiers that impact your selling style, and it feels like you have all the time in the world to ignore customers in order to save up resources to demand the top prices, and it all becomes a pretty streamlined process. The issue is that it just doesn't feel satisfying. It feels like I'm running a spreadsheet that tells me when I need to sell something and what combinations of a flat rate and percentage increase I should be using. And while there may be a few limitations to the whole experience, it just felt super formulaic, and I wasn't the only one who felt that way, as apparently this user that left a Steam review agreed with me in saying that they kinda preferred the selling style from the first game. The end goal in the demo is to make 5,000 gold in one day to give to a mysterious entity that's come to the town, and once done, it demands a higher daily investment in return for better rewards. In order to get higher sales, you must navigate through the roguelike style dungeon, which is where the Hades aspect comes into play. I could go on forever about how games tend to copy one another, and I may make a whole video about how the recent trends of all these games are basically just the same exact game with a new art style and maybe a few minor tweaks. But as it sits, when going through the dungeon, you are tasked with a Hades style of gameplay where you must take out all the enemies in a given location, choose your rewards, and then choose where you're going to head next. The puzzle mechanic revolving around your backpack management is probably one of the stronger aspects from the demo, although it felt like some of the bonuses items were supposed to grant never really did anything, so I'm not really sure if this is a bug or if I just didn't understand how to use it. Now, what felt lacking through all this though was the actual combat. What made Hades so influential and fun is the fluidity of combat, and it feels like Moonlighter 2 has none of that. The controls felt like they were constantly behind my button presses, so when I tried to perform a change in a combo or make a last second dodge, I was unable to do so, and many enemies lack the ability to be staggered, so while I'm pummeling someone who has a ranged weapon, they're still able to aim and fire twice into me because not only will they not get staggered, but I still can't seem to find the dodge window during a combo. It never really felt like I glued on to any enemies, and because of that lack of fluidity in the combat just doesn't make it conducive to build giant combos like you would in other games. And the levels that had mostly obstacles were met with a good amount of frustration from me, as the small cooldown between dodges made the endless spike traps a nightmare to navigate, as it always seemed like I triggered the next one a hair too early and would take damage because of that. After about 2 hours of playing, I had finished all that there was to be played in the demo, and the experience would have gotten better towards the end, but I just was ready to walk away and not look back. Moonlighter 2 just felt like a shell of what made the first game so special. It didn't really do anything inherently wrong, because ideally the game could easily work with the Hades style gameplay. However, a lacking fluidity in combat, odd environmental interactions, and a less than compelling sales portion of the game shows that both halves of gameplay that were up and running in the first game fell flat in the sequel. There is no official release date, and I would really like to see the series continue, so I hope the devs are taking the feedback that is shown on their demo to heart, and if that means completely delaying the game until these issues have been ironed out, then I think it will likely end up preventing what may be a low point for a team that's just really starting to hit their stride. If you have any feedback you'd like to share, please feel free to comment below, and if you haven't played the demo, make sure to check it out, because my opinion shouldn't be the only thing that matters. But with that, that'll be it for this video. I hope you have a great rest of your day, and as always, be kind to one another.
You may pause and wonder, is this pursuit more important than its destination? That answer lies within you, little merchant.
Shoutouts go to Relativity, Naughty Dog is King, Chaos, Kamikolo alongside all those subbed to the channel. Let me know if you're interested in me making a video about the state of gaming as a whole, but either way, I will see you soon.